So we just got some new job numbers out today from the government, and I want to go over it with you. And if you've been following this drama, you'll know that last time the numbers came out, Trump didn't like it. He said, "Oh, you're a liar," right? And then fires the head of the agency that puts out said numbers. So what do the new numbers have to say this month? It says U.S. economy adds 22,000 jobs. Unemployment rate hits 4.3% in August as labor market continues dramatic slowdown. You also have this. First jobs report since BLS chief's firing shows weak market. Now, Trump's going to tell a different story, and I want you to see what he has to say.
The real numbers that I'm talking about are going to be whatever it is, but will be in a year from now when these monstrous, huge, beautiful places, they're palaces of genius. And when they start opening up, you're seeing, I think you'll see job numbers that are going to be absolutely incredible. Right now, it's a lot of construction numbers, but you're going to see job numbers like our country has never seen before.
So according to Trump, these palaces of geniuses, I guess is what he's referring to as, are going to be so awesome. I guess that's all next year. Now, if you understand what's going on, they're talking about data centers, okay? And he had all the tech CEOs come to the White House talking about, hey, how can we get more data centers in, more AI, more robots to effectively replace you? And he even gave his sort of how can I say, trick to pump up the numbers. Basically, what they do often is when they build a data center and they say, hey guys, look at it, we're creating all these new jobs. It is absolutely true. When you build a building and you put in, a bunch of chips and servers and these kind of things, it takes jobs to build the building itself. But then after those construction is done, those jobs all go away, basically. That's a temporary job, essentially. So whenever they say they're creating jobs, it's, yes, creating jobs, building the data centers, and that's a short-term gain. But ultimately, those data centers are going to effectively erase jobs. I mean, you can hear him say it. He's going to promise that there are going to be jobs next year, but yeah. And this is a pattern that Trump does a lot to where he'll pump up numbers. Let me show you this. This is from Zuckerberg and Trump.
Well, thanks for hosting us. I mean, this is quite a group to get together. And, I think, all of the companies here are just making huge investments in the country in order to build out data centers and infrastructure to power the next wave of innovation. So it's, we don't often get together as the CEOs of the different companies, but it's good to see everyone.
How much are you spending, would you say, over the next few years?
Oh, gosh. I think it's probably going to be something like, I don't know, at least $600 billion through 28 in the U.S. Yeah.
It's a lot.
No, it's significant.
That's a lot. Thank you, Mark. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't ready to do for announcement.
He said I wasn't sure what number you wanted to go with.
So that's behind the scenes right here, and CNN caught this. This is like a hot mic. Basically, they do this all the time, and I've told you guys this before, to where they'll make a big announcement. In this situation, Trump's like, "Oh, how much are you spending on data jobs or whatever, data centers?" And Zuckerberg's like, "Oh, I guess 600 billion, right?" It's like it's a lot of money actually, but he's basically pulling the number out of your butt. And then you have Zuckerberg behind the scenes, literally saying, "I wasn't sure what number you wanted to go with." How this works, and I remember seeing it when Trump was in the Middle East, is he'll go to the, Saudi Arabia or UAE or wherever, and they'll talk about investments in USA. Someone will throw out a number like, okay, we can do 50 billion or whatever, just for example. And Trump will say, well, that's just not big enough. Can you make it 100 or 200 billion for the announcement? And you don't have to give me the money, you just have to pledge. Oh, no, okay, over the next 10 years, I promise that I'm going to give 300 billion to you, whatever, right? And it's the same kind of thing here. And if you see this, literally Zuckerberg saying, I wasn't sure what number you wanted to go with. Like, no money's changing hands here. And even if they do invest, again, it's building data centers, which are temporary jobs for the people who are constructing said things. But then when the data center actually opens, there's not that many jobs there. And the whole purpose is to replace you. And then you got this chart, and you have to understand how before you can see the change in job growth, right? So the gray is all the jobs that were added. But the last few months have been showing some real signs of weakness as we had some downward revisions. So that would be for May and June. June was negative. July had a small upward revision this time. You can see it right there. And then August came in at 22,000, which is very, very low.
Thing one is that all the job creation is private sector job creation. Government workers who actually their employment declined by 100,000.
And it was kind of weird, this Hassett guy, to where he's like, oh, look at all this, private sector jobs, but government jobs down 100,000. And which is kind of weird. Like he skipped over it really quickly, being down 100,000 in government jobs. Remember the Doge stuff, et cetera. They're trying to fire as many people as possible. And then Hassett will go on to talk about the job market is good because his family is doing great. Listen, he literally says it.
That there are, that we're in an economy where everyone, when you come out of college, come out of business school, come out of law school, there are no jobs for you. And then I got others who tell me, hey, listen, it's never been this good and everybody's got a job. Can we just tell me, are people getting hired when they go to graduate school? Are people getting hired if they graduate college? Or is it longer than when you and I went to school?
Right. Well, the hire rates are about what you would normally see. Members of my family have been hired. Both of them started their new jobs about a week ago. And so you are seeing that people are being hired. Perhaps in some areas it's slower than people thought. So, for example, we know that people who invested heavily in computer programming skills, their jobs are being squeezed a little bit by AI being able to code. But for the most part, we're seeing labor force participation go up and the unemployment rate stay about steady.
So he says unemployment is steady. He's saying you're all doing great because his family's doing great. But it's like, oh, well, but people are losing government jobs. And, oh, well, people losing coding jobs, etc. I mean, this is how these people think. As long as him and his family are doing great, who cares about the rest of you? I just wanted to show you that's actually his words. Then the market reacted negatively today as a recording. It says S&P 500 falls, giving up earlier gain as traders balance economic worries with rate cut hopes. The basic gist of it is Wall Street always needs some sort of narrative before. It was like, hey guys, everything's going to be great once we start cutting rates. All the people are going to start borrowing again, and wow, everything will be fantastic. But then they realize, well, if we're cutting rates because no one has a job, that's not a good thing, right? I mean, this is sort of why the Fed is balancing things out. If you cut too much, then you may get a risk to inflation. If it gets really bad, though, then it's the opposite. It's like you're worried about prices just declining too much because no one has a job, no one has any money, therefore there's no demand.
What about inflation? What about the economy? What about tariffs? What about jobs? Do you see any of that playing a factor here?
A little bit. I mean, international tourism is definitely down. Over 50%. Over 50% of the people I get in my store are international people, and I see that as down, especially from Asia.
So especially from Asia, he's saying, right, international tourism down. This is, I don't even know this guy. If you guys know who this is Rick Harrison from Pawn Stars, reality TV star. I don't know. I just don't know this Pawn Star show. But I can understand what he's saying, that tourism is down in Vegas. And I've heard other people in the community that say they live in Vegas and they've seen it also, and you've also seen reports on that. When tourism is down, Trump is, chasing people away. It hurts everyone. Because tourism brings a lot of money into the U.S. I mean, it's just, spending on hotels, restaurants. You can talk about foreign students, etc. And then you have this crazy story. Tesla board proposes Musk pay package worth as much as $1 trillion over a decade. And I'll do a separate video on this, but I just wanted to illustrate how, oftentimes when you talk about the Trumpers, we're, so concerned about all these delivery drivers that they have to arrest in D.C. That's been the story. But they won't talk about this kind of stuff, right? Where effectively the gap between rich and poor is going to get wider. And, does anyone or is anyone worth $1 trillion? And Musk is a total con artist. I mean, it's obvious. So how long can they keep this con going? I mean, $1 trillion con at this point, who knows?
Yeah, Jim and I were just talking about when the numbers out of BLS will start to reflect the tone of investment that we got at the dinner last night. Is it just too early?
No, well, first of all, I think what you have to do is remember that, and when you're looking at an economy, you have to look at the whole portfolio of numbers that we have to look at. This jobs number was certainly a little bit of a disappointment right now.
And so as I've told you before many times, effectively Trump's reality show is how can I cast as many people as I can to deny reality and say, hey guys, everything's fine. We're all winning. Look, we just had this dinner last night and look at all these data centers we're going to build to replace all the workers. Wow, everything's going to be great. Fantastic.
That's the judgment that the economy is sound and inflation is low. First of all, we're having a capital spending boom. Capital investment is up 8% over the first half of the year, which is really, record growth in capital spending. We've got industrial production at the highest level it's ever been. And so we're really cruising into, I think, the kind of capital spending boom we had last time, the last time that we had the big corporate reform.
And so he's making the case that we're all rich. See, everything is up. Everything is going great. That's what they say. And I always tell you guys what this stuff is, whatever the Trump people say, you will know your situation better than they will, right? They're going to lie about your situation, of course, but I'll just say, just don't let people tell you like how much money you have, and don't let people tell you how much things cost, because the Trump people will just say, hey, everything's so cheap and you have so much money, you're doing great. You know your own situation better than they do. Regardless of what Hassett's referring to, effectively, remember, we all saw the tariffs coming, so a lot of companies bought us stuff ahead of time, essentially what that is. And so don't expect the companies to keep buying a bunch of equipments and things like this, because now the tariffs are here, they're basically going to stop.
And the argument was that we're entering a new phase of the tariff story where companies increasingly can no longer rely on their pre-tariff inventory levels. They think that buffer largely depleted by August or September. You think the economy's prepared for that?
I think the economy is definitely prepared for the tariffs. So the way you're seeing it is we're having this capital spending boom. I was meeting with the CEO, I won't say which one, yesterday because I don't want to get ahead of his earnings announcement, but he talked about the billions and billions of dollars that they were spending here in the U.S. so that they can get the production to be built.
And according to them, it's always billions and billions of dollars, so I guess we're all rich. Okay?
I'm
great to be here, Bill.
to you. Let's go ahead and get your hot take. It's not the number you wanted. It was not the number that was expected. How come?
Right. Well, one of the things we know is that they've been really at BLS struggling with bad response rates. And Goldman Sachs put out a study yesterday that said that they've been messing up the August seasonal so much that over the last 10 to 15 years, they've tended to have to revise up the number by around almost 70,000 jobs when they get the new final surveys.
So it's their fault?
And so, well, I'm saying that this number, we expect this number will be revised up. That's been the pattern over and over.
So he expects the number to be revised up, according to him. And remember, this is now that Trump's got his people in place. I mean, I'll let you guys read that how you want, but they're kind of like, oh, well, we're going to change that number. Listen to more about this. It's kind of crazy.
The revisions for June and July collectively were lower.
We're lower.
And you're saying the revisions for next month will come back. We'll see whether or not that's the case.
Yeah, and there's another big revision next week. But the point is that these numbers, the reason why they're getting revised so much is that these numbers are based on surveys, and people are kind of not filling out the surveys until the last minute. And so that.
So even the Fox News reporter's like, well, the last time we had revisions, they were revised down. So like, what are you talking about being revised up? Well, I mean, we got our people in place now, so of course they're going to go up. Okay, I don't know.
The final thing is that the wage numbers are fantastic. The wage growth is almost at 4%, which means that the typical wage earner in America right now has gotten a $500 raise already because of Donald Trump's policy.
Okay, so
according to Hassett, wage growth is phenomenal, fantastic. You're all getting an extra $500, I guess, according to him. I don't know if that's a year or what he's referring to, but this is the wage growth. Actually, it's going down a bit. You can see here in the chart. So I guess the number was a 3.7, and the basic gist of it is, and again, you'll know your situation better than they will. The question is, are your raises keeping up with the cost of things around you, be it housing costs, food costs, fuel costs, etc. And you'll know your situation, but I can see the national numbers, and this idea that wage growth is phenomenal is not true. It's just not true. I can literally see that on a chart. Also, you have this, and this was a bizarre story. People asked me about this before. Just a couple hours ago, I saw it. It was a front page everywhere. Hundreds arrested in immigration raid at Hyundai site in Georgia. And we're talking about a lot of workers. It says nearly 500 workers. So I'm just reading it. The operation Thursday resulted in arrest of 475 individuals. More than 300 were South Korean nationals, according to official from the country. Okay. So my first reaction to this stuff is I think this goes on at a lot of companies, right? But I do want to know the full story. Okay. And when you read into it, it's hard to know because there's subcontractors, and then some subcontractors subcontract again. I'll literally just read what it says. It says, among those detained at the factory were South Korean employees of LG Energy Solution who were traveling for business. Okay. Hyundai Motor said it believed that it didn't directly employ any of those detained. LG Energy said Friday it was cooperating with South Korean government and relevant authorities to ensure the employees' safety and secure their prompt release from detention. The joint venture said it was cooperating with authorities and paused construction. I don't know what to make of this, because then it also says talking about some of these people might have had the proper visas. I'm not sure. It says here the abrupt arrest caught South Korean government officials and Hyundai by surprise. A close ally wasn't given prior notice by the Trump administration, according to a South Korean official. The South Korean nationals working in Georgia were largely given visas suitable for training purposes, such as the B1 visa, and many were working as instructors, the South Korean official said. Seoul expects an opportunity to affirm the legality of the visas held by the South Koreans working in Georgia. So I don't know what to make of this. I'll say in some situations, I think the last big thing like this would be, I think it might have been like a Tyson chicken plant. I remember there was some sort of chicken plant, and there's a lot of undocumented workers there. Some were children. This situation at the Hyundai thing, my first mind was like, okay, are we hiring people on the line that are, illegal in some way? I'm just telling you, that was my first reaction. But then when I read through it, are we talking about now, are these people coming from Korea to then instruct Americans how to work? At least that's what it says here. I don't know. But the problem is we've got any of this stuff. Okay, first, my first other thing would say is I have no trouble and no problem in enforcing, immigration law if that's what you're going to do, but enforce it in all 50 states. Enforce it fairly, and don't just arrest people first and then ask questions later, like do things with due process and stuff like that. Because if you are indeed just arresting people who do have visas and they're traveling for work, whatever, it just seems like this is why tourism is going down in USA. So that's my thoughts on that. I'd like to hear yours, and I'll catch you all in the next video.